I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
This is where the fun begins.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Jedi Knight's JoyClick's official Star Wars podcast. I'm your host today in the Han Solo seat. My name's Christian Buckley. I'm joined, though, by my Chewie in life and in co-hosting, Mike Connors. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm excited. We're recording at a different time today, so I have like different vibes. I think we were just talking. It's the morning, so we normally don't do the morning recordings, but we were talking about potentially what if we had our own morning show, and that's kind of like the energy that I'm channeling right now.
Sure.
For our Star Wars morning edition of Jedi Nights. Jedi mornings.
You see the traffic on the 405 on Coruscant today?
I mean, I got stuck in it. I was almost late to, level 2013.
Oh, man.
You
That's unfortunate, It just these kids with their speeders, you can never predict what's gonna happen.
Yeah, Christian, actually, do you wanna cut to the sky cam over the Jedi Temple? I'm just kidding.
Man, I should have pulled a graphic for that because I could have just like transitioned that to that scene. That would have been so nice. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm really good. Just happy to be back. Happy to be talking about some Star Wars. I'm really excited for the topics that we have today.
Yes.
Some new stuff that we've been hoping to see some news come from it, and really excited to give our own opinions on it today. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. Like we talked about, I think we said this either on air or off air last week, but surprised that there's at least something notable to talk about usually every week. And I think this week, news wise, there's some very interesting things to talk about because we do have some new quotes from Leslie Headland, the lead showrunner for Star Wars Acolyte, and her inspirations from the prequels, no less, as well as Star Wars Visions. We got our first look at it, very exciting, and some Star Wars gaming news, of course, before we get to the Bad Batch. But Mike, we're going to kick the show off the way we always do with our segment from the Jedi Archives, where we pull from the sacred text of Wikipedia to educate each other and the audience on something in Star Wars lore, canon, legends, what have you. What do you bring this week?
So I chose an alien species that I believe appears in both canon and legends. The name of the species is the Gran. Have you heard of them? The Gran?
I don't think so. With an M or an N?
With an N.
Okay.
So Gran. You've definitely seen them before, because I wasn't familiar with the name, but once I saw the photo, I was like, wow, okay. They have like 3 eyes. They trust me when I say that when you look at a photo of them,
yes,
you'll recognize them. But they were sentient mammalian humanoids native to the planet Kinyen, though they had colonies across the galaxy, including settlements on the planets Hawk and Malastare. They had 3 eyes, a goat-like snout. They weighed on average about 80 kilograms. I don't know what that is, because I don't know kilograms.
Yeah,
but...
we're dumb Americans here.
Yeah, dumb Americans. But I would guess, maybe that's heavy. I have no idea. But yeah, these guys, I think, were mostly, when I'm trying to think about like where I've seen them, I think like the prequels in a lot of
For sure.
the Senate shots, maybe.
Yes.
But other than that, I don't think that there's been like a grand main character.
I did look
to my knowledge.
Yeah, I did a quick Google image search just to make sure that you were correct, and I did know what you were referring to. Definitely saw some prequel outfits. You have to
see it, right?
Yes, you have to see it. Definitely saw some prequel looking costumes and makeup, as well as what looked like the Resistance art style. So potentially there's a notable Gran in Resistance. I wouldn't know. I haven't watched Resistance, but good pick, good species.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think they definitely don't get the fanfare that some other species do. So shout out to the Gran.
Yeah, and it's funny though, because
sorry, what'd you say?
They are iconic, right? You see that, you're like, oh, that's that Star Wars alien, right?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just weird because like you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
like at least I didn't really know the name of their species, but for sure, like you look at them and you recognize them because they are very unique looking.
Mm-hmm.
I just I think we should get a Grand Jedi. Let's do
cool.
that. What'd you pick, my man?
I pulled the 7th Alsacian conflict. I absolutely thought it was Alaskan.
Oh man.
I'm an idiot. So the seventh Alsacan conflict happened in 10967 BBY. It lasted 1 year. The seventh Alsacan conflict, also known as the Renunciation of the Pius Dea Civil War, was one of the several conflicts between the planets Alsacan and Coruscant and their respective allies. The seventh was a war between the Galactic Republic, under the control of Pius Dea religious group, and their enemies, including the Jedi Order, Alsacan, and many alien species that had been persecuted by the Pius Dea cult. The conflict resulted in an Alsacani Jedi victory, with the removal of Pius Dea from power and replacement of the Pius Dea leader, Constipex the 19th, with Jedi Grandmaster Biel Ductavis as Supreme Chancellor.
Interesting. I've never even heard of the Alsacans, or like the planet of Alsacan before. That's really interesting.
Me either. I'm looking for sources right now. Tinker Tailor Soldier Prodigy on hyperspace. Content removed from StarWars.com and unavailable. I don't know what this is from.
Interesting. It's probably like a Legends thing. It's got to be, right?
It was mentioned in a codex entry in Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Oh, interesting.
So.
I mean, I'm looking myself at the Wikipedia page, and there are like it's very detailed about it. So I'm very interested in this. I honestly never even knew this was a thing, and also the fact that there were Alsacan Jedi that came. I don't know. It just seems weird that they were like factionized to like their own planets during that time.
Yeah.
Very strange, but cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was a fun little segment, as always, every week. Excellent picks. But what I want to transition to, actually, is, funny enough, coincidentally, tied to Star Wars: The Old Republic. Did not plan that. But
oh yeah,
earlier this week, there was a leak for EA Play Live, which is EA's E3 showcase that should be happening this summer. It is happening this month, I believe, somewhere around the 20th, maybe the 22nd. But there was a leak, and through r/gaming leaks and rumors, which, not always the best source, somebody said, hey, there's a big expansion celebration coming to Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO, this year, because it's 10 years. And then this reveal apparently was supposed to happen at EA Play Live, but because it leaked, the official accounts for everything for Star Wars: The Old Republic were like, you know what? Send the press releases out. Let's do it now, and we'll show it at EA Play Live. So Star Wars: The Old Republic Legacy of the Sith is the big initiative for the 10th anniversary celebration. We can get into it in a second, Mike, but first off, did you see this? I know you have history with this MMO. What's up?
So, no, I actually did not see this. I do have a history with this MMO. There are people out there who play it way more religiously than I ever have.
Mm-hmm.
There was probably a week period where I played it pretty consistently. So, I mean, I was never really into the expansions that they put out. I know that they have previously, but this seems really cool. I expect something to come out of when these anniversaries happen, these 10 years anniversaries happen. I sort of expect them to celebrate that and market in some way. So them doing this makes a lot of sense. It's one of those things that it sort of just has always existed in the background. Star Wars: The Old Republic. It existed prior to the Disney purchase of Lucasfilm. And so I wonder how long Lucasfilm is going to keep putting this or keep giving. I think it's BioWare or something.
Yes.
That has the rights to it. Yeah, I just wonder how long they're going to keep this up for. I mean, it doesn't seem like they have any plans on stopping it anytime soon. And I'm interested in at least looking at it. I know that the Old Republic expansions usually get accompanied by a really cool cinematic trailer that I've watched. So I mean, I don't think I'm going to be jumping into it, but it's fun to see this still going on because I know a lot of people like it.
Yeah, and just a comment on what you're talking about of like the canonness of it, right? I've actually had the chance to talk to somebody who worked on the dev team when the game launched 10 years ago,
Mm,
and
mm.
I might be paraphrasing, but I believe from our conversation they were like, "Hey, yeah, so at the time even we were doing this, and it was like we know it's not like canon because the game did launch before the Disney purchase, right? But even
Yeah,
back then they were operating under the assumption of like, hey, this isn't like the sacred text of George Lucas, right? Like this is a new thing we're doing to adapt this and have some fun here. And it's honestly, I bet the reason it has been, I know they don't work on it anymore, but since then Disney did purchase it, right? So I think the reason
yeah,
it's stuck around is just because it is financially successful and there is a clear understanding that like, hey, yeah, this is not canon, but non-canon things can still have worth in Star Wars, as we've discussed plenty of times. And even on the Disney side, they're working with Del Rey to republish some of the Legends novels. We talked about that last week. So like, it's cool that it hit 10 years, right? MMOs are a really tough genre to permeate in through with gaming. It's basically
yeah.
World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 14, and then you get, I think, on this level stuff like Elder Scrolls Online, Star Wars: The Old Republic, other stuff that's like this, that's like a license will help it. But it's cool that it hit 10 years. That's a big milestone.
Yeah, it is a very cool milestone for sure. I just think, I guess the point that I was trying to make was when Disney purchased Lucasfilm, it seemed like they kind of went scorched earth in their policy, right? They
Hmm.
completely made everything that was canon before, like immediately into Legends. They decanonized all that kind of stuff. They canceled, to my knowledge, I think they canceled like a few video games that were like in the works and all that
Yep.
kind of stuff. So it is cool to see that like this has sort of survived and people obviously take it pretty seriously, and a lot of people play it. So, and like you said, Christian, very good point. Like, it's not like they're losing money off of it.
Hmm.
So, you know, it's fun. I just think that it's interesting because because it has its roots in Star Wars and it has its roots before the Disney purchase. It does have like sort of connections to things that were canon previously, like Darth Revan and all that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. Um, so in a way, I feel like it's sort of like a pseudo canon kind of thing. Like it's sort of canon if you want to believe that, but it's not technically.
Hmm.
But I do think it's cool that they're keeping it going and everything to another 10 years, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff they're adding here seems like, hey, this is for these are updates to help the game survive long term for the community because I have a little bit of experience with this game, right? I played like a Sith warrior for about a week like you did, and I really liked it. I loved the story stuff. But I also have a history with Marvel Heroes Omega, which was a Diablo like Marvel game. And when the game was getting close
Oh,
to ending, they kind of just was like, you know what, screw all the rules, whatever what you want to gear you want to do, have at it. Um, and some of the things they're bringing with this update in the post that I shared has some interesting stuff, like specifically story wise, like you were just talking about, kind of canon. Return to the Underwater Depths is a highlight on this blog post, and they say the Sith Empire has invaded Manan to seize its abundance of Kolto. So
oh wow. Going back to Manon. I mean, that's what I mean though. Like, I'm pretty sure that was like a Knights of the Old Republic
it
um
was. I
world,
hated it.
wasn't it? Yeah. So yeah, the worst world in Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah.
But like that's what I mean. And when I talk about like pseudo canon, like it still has those connections to Legends,
Mhm.
because it existed in that like realm before Disney purchased it. But it's cool to see that like Disney's not they're not being like super evangelical over their own canon, and they're sort of like letting these stories exist in the way that they do, because I think the people, like you said, the people who play this game, they realize that it's not actually canon Star Wars, but like you're playing your own character, so like in a way it's like your own canon, I guess.
Yeah, and they're cracking it open so like classes aren't as restrictive for weapons. Like, I know if you want to dual wield as a Jedi or Sith, you have to pick a specific class. They're letting you just do that with any Jedi or Sith class now. Um, Troopers can use any type of weapon, any type of gun. Sorry. Um, And in terms of releasing, they're saying that it's free for all subscribers, launching holiday this year. And Legacy of the Sith is just the beginning of the 10th year celebration. You can expect much throughout next year, including regular story updates, PvP updates, galactic seasons. So for sure, the game still has some life in it, but this is, like we said, a big milestone. So congrats.
Yes, congrats to the Old Republic.
Mm-hmm.
10 more years to you, and many
Yeah.
more after.
See, now what I'm excited for is, I don't want to say I'm excited for this game to shut down, but I'm excited for the potential High Republic MMO we could get to explore the High Republic, you know, with maybe updated visuals and potentially a console release for multiplayer. Like, that'd be nice.
I mean, that seemed like, I feel like that would be a good next step, right? Maybe
hope,
at a certain point, BioWare is like, we kind of like ran the whole Old Republic thing for a while. Like it seems sort of stale. I mean, obviously, like you said, like it seems to be doing well financially, so it doesn't make sense for Disney to be like, cast BioWare out to the side
Right.
and like not do anything with them in the future. So, I mean, the settings and the stories that Disney has created for their version of Star Wars, including the High Republic, like you said, I think would work really well in this sort of MMORPG, story like fashion. So I would be really interested in seeing that. Honestly, like, I feel like if anything would sort of like hook me into that world of like massive multiplayer online games, like it would be like a newly released Star Wars The High Republic MMORPG. That would be really cool, honestly. And probably something that I would get way too into.
Yeah, and hopefully, maybe, I think we talked about this before, but the Division team from Ubisoft, I imagine their game is High Republic, and Division isn't an MMO. It's more like there's a lot of players that are playing it at the same time, and you can cross over with them. It's not like traditional WoW or 14 or anything like that, but yeah, I think exploring the High Republic through a MMO light like Destiny or Division or a true MMO would be very exciting. So
Yeah, like I'm not saying it has to be like, as hardcore as like a WoW or, or even like the Old Republic for that matter, but something that is like, multiplayer, like a Destiny would be really cool, I think,
for
like
sure.
you said. So hopefully that's something we get.
Yeah. Well, 2 hits of fun news for you. Star Wars The Clone Wars has been nominated for 3 daytime Emmys. I don't know what the difference is between daytime Emmys and normal Emmys. I don't know if you know.
I really don't.
The categories it has been nominated for are Outstanding Writing Team for a Daytime Animated Program. Music, I didn't write the whole category, but it was like music for a preschool, elementary, or young adult animated like series. It was a long ass title, so I was like, okay, music and sound mixing, got it. But
right, yeah, interesting. I mean, honestly, I think all 3 of these, they have a good chance of winning. I mean, just the music alone was phenomenal for at least season 7 of the Clone Wars, and I'm sure that's probably what they're basing this off of, right? Like season 7,
oh yeah,
because
yeah.
it was mostly recently. Yeah. Outstanding writing team. I mean, like the last 4 episodes deserve like, I don't know, like the Medal of Honor or something like that.
It was really good, yeah. It was quite good. So
yeah. So I
congrats to
mean,
the team.
this seems, yeah, it seems well deserved for all this, and I hope that they win them.
Yeah, I don't know what their competition is, but at least in terms of daytime animated programs, I don't know what else holds a candle to this. Maybe I'm not ear to the ground on daytime animated programming, but I think they have a good chance. So
yeah, it's Star Wars, The Clone Wars, going up against Paw Patrol, actually. So.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, don't.
No, I'm joking. I have no idea.
uh,
One thing I did want to add, Christian, that I think we may have skipped over, it's just like EA Play in general, EA Play Live. I see you have written here on the doc if we expect more out of that. I don't know if we touched on that, but do you think that we're going to see any, like, anything come out of EA Play in terms of Star Wars, other than the Old Republic and everything.
Yeah, I'm glad
Because I
you.
know that
Mhm.
there's been like some rumors of some stuff. So
Yeah,
take it away.
I'm glad you brought that up. Because we have a bit of time. I think it's like 2 weeks away, and already BioWare has come out and they've said like no Dragon Age 4, no Mass Effect 4. Do not expect either of those from EA Play. So you're already narrowing the pool of what you could show. Like, of course, there's going to be Battlefield 2042. That's their big release this year.
Hmm.
There's rumors of a revival. It sounds like Dead Space is getting rebooted, which is
Oh,
pretty cool.
that is
And
very cool.
based off of EA Play Live last year, I think they could center a show around Battlefield, Dead Space, and like Madden and The Sims or something. But like they're doing a couple events before EA Play Live that are dedicated to Madden and stuff like that. So I think we've thrown this possibility around a bit, but Jedi Fallen Order 2 getting an announcement, probably not a trailer, but like maybe a logo or a title or a window of a 2023 or something. Like I would expect.
Or literally just
Yeah.
one guy going up to another in the stands, like it did the last time.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I would expect something on that level, be it KOTOR 2, sorry, not KOTOR 2, Fallen Order 2, or Battlefront 3, getting that sort of, we'll see you in 2023, here's a graphic. Star Wars is still a big priority for EA, even though you're going to see Star Wars games from other people. We still make some premium experiences like those Battlefront 2, that community loves that game. You're going to get a new one. Jedi Fallen Order, acclaimed Star Wars game. And actually, Mike, the whole thing about Dead Space, I know this is a slight tangent, but EA apparently, they saw the success of Fallen Order, they saw the success of Resident Evil 2 Remake, and they were like, oh, maybe we invest in single player again. That's the rumor right now. So apparently, like, because of Fallen Order and seeing competitors like RE2 do a really successful remake of a single player story game, EA might be revisiting that. And they just relaunched the Mass Effect series, so like I keep saying first person, EA story games could be returning, and it's thanks to Star Wars and Resident Evil. So
yeah, that's interesting. I didn't really think about it like that. I think it's just I would be surprised if like we didn't hear anything about Fallen Order 2, because it's kind of like a given at this point in a
yeah.
way. Like it's sort of like we know it's going to happen like at some point. We just don't know like when.
Hmm.
And it's not. I feel like EA, they may have the opportunity at this event to sort of just tell people that like, hey, like don't worry, like this is something that we're still working on, like, and like here's like the graphic of the title or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't expect to see anything like any gameplay or anything like that, just because it's been too recent to the release of the first Fallen Order. I think when it comes to either Battlefront 3 or Fallen Order 2, I think we'll more likely see something come out for Fallen Order 2, just because of Battlefield and everything is too similar, I think, to Battlefront. I just feel like they would want to maybe save that for next year or a year after that. But
Yeah.
I would be surprised again, like if like I said, I'd be surprised if we didn't hear anything. Though I've been wrong in the past, so hopefully we see
Hmm.
something come from Fall. I would love to see something come from Fallen Order, honestly.
Yeah. And
So
I think why it's safe to assume, because I just did a quick search to see if they've even like vocally said we're making a sequel. I don't know if they have. Um, they absolutely are,
I know, but
but um,
yeah, it's like so like it did so well. Like
right, yeah. So like, even if they are and they haven't said they are yet, I think it's my reasoning goes back to a conversation we've had before of like we've seen multiple Star Wars games get announced that are not from EA. We saw the Ubisoft announcement, we saw Hunters from Zynga, and there's the rumor that some Xbox team is making a Mandalorian game, right? So like there
yeah,
are those games coming, right? Some of them could be hitting 2023 when the license is no longer exclusively EA. And I think as EA, a studio who announced Mass Effect 4 like 2 years ago, like, I think they will take that opportunity to be like, hey, before this new wave hits, we gave you a couple good things and we have more coming. So, you know, like, they want to still have some claim of ownership over Star Wars games, even if they don't anymore. They want you to think they do. So, you can make an announcement to do that.
I mean, totally. And I mean, like, yes, there's still a possibility that they will sort of try to flex that. Like you're saying, I guess you're basically saying that, like, there's a high probability that EA is just gonna, like, flex to the world that they still have those Star Wars rights. So I mean, like, I think you know, a Fallen Order 2 announcement's more likely, but, you know, who's to say that they can't just go out there and be like, hey, we're working out on Fallen Order 2 and Battlefront 3, and you'll see them in the next few years, and that's it.
Yeah, and
I feel like that would be nice.
Honestly, this is truly dreaming, right? But I could maybe see this happen. Remember how Squadrons just came out of nowhere and it was like, oh, whoa, okay, weird.
You think that's going to happen again this year?
I think, not for this year, but I could maybe see a world where I don't imagine Fallen Order 2 or Battlefront 3 would be 2022 games. And if they drop in 2023, that's good, but there's a chance that Ubisoft drops their game in 2023 also, right? So you are competing to a degree there. I could see a world where EA wants to have at least one more thing. It's literally a Hail Mary sort of scenario where in 2022, maybe they release a single player only, 6 to 8 hour single player only campaign first person shooter. Like, think Republic Commando. Like, I could maybe see that. You know, have the Squadrons team.
Yeah.
Just do a short, solid, really good Republic Commando type game and drop that next year while you still have exclusive ownership over this IP.
Totally. I mean, yeah, that is very true. I always forget about, like, the Star Wars Squadrons announcement because it was very random. I don't think any of us were really expecting it at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, who's to say that over the past, 5 years that EA has had the sole IP rights to Star Wars video games, that they haven't been working on something else, that they're going to want to, like, capitalize on, being the only one to make money off of this for, like, the last time.
Yeah.
It would be a very EA thing to do.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
If I was in the EA board of directors room, I would say, hey, whatever you can do, 1 year, make whatever campaign you got to do in 1 year. Single player only, people will buy it. Put it out for $40-$50 next year. It's only us. People will buy it. This is our last shot to do this. So, like, why not do it,
Yeah, you might as well just capitalize on like, it's just too much money is, like, literally coming out of it. So, if you're EA and you have those rights, it would be kind of silly from a business perspective not to take advantage of it. But it really all depends on, like, how forward thinking they were. Just because it does take a lot of resources and a lot of time to make a video game.
Yes.
And so hopefully they've been working on something, because I think they would have had to have been by now. For that to be even a possibility, obviously. But like you said, Squadrons came out of nowhere. So it's very possible that we'll see something.
And yes, games take a while to make, but EA is a massive studio, so, like,
this is true.
If it's only a single, like, no multiplayer, if it's a short, focused 6-hour story thing, I feel like 2 years is reasonable. So if they started sometime around last year to drop it next year, like, this is all from my gut. This is based off of nothing but feelings. But I think it's a world where EA sees an opportunity to make some money the last time they can, and they do it,
Honestly, Christian, crazier things have happened.
Yeah.
We didn't expect Squadrons, and that happened. So, who's to say it can't? Again.
We will wait and see later this month.
When is that again?
I believe it's July 22nd. I can double check for you real quick, but I know it's the later portion of July.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Cool stuff. I'm excited. Hopefully we get good.
Yeah. So, let's move on to a bit of some news regarding the Acolyte, which has been popping up a fair amount recently, I think. Leslie Headland, the lead of the show, because it's weird, Disney Plus maybe doesn't have showrunners, it's a weird whole thing, but Leslie Headland is the name spearheading Acolyte. Recently she was interviewed by The Wrap, and she was talking a lot about her influences and her fandom as a Star Wars fan. And what's interesting, Mike, is she apparently really loves Clone Wars, really loves Fallen Order, and she was 18, I think, when The Phantom Menace came out, and she was a huge Star Wars fan when it came out.
Oh.
And there's a very interesting quote. I recommend reading the whole thing, but there's an interesting quote about her thoughts regarding The Phantom Menace. I will read it, and I would like your thoughts on it.
Sure.
She said, regarding her viewing of Phantom Menace in 1999, I kind of wondered, but what happened to lead up to this? That's kind of where my Star Wars fan brain went. Like, how did we get here? And why are the Jedi like this? When they are in power, why are they acting this way? And how is it that they're not having the reaction that you would think they would to Anakin's presence and what Qui-Gon Jinn is saying about how passionately he feels about training him and bringing him into the fold? And she was also discussing, like specifically, she details what led up to it. We talked a lot recently about her view on George Lucas's politics for Star Wars, but she was really being surprisingly analytical in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. Like, a lot of people glaze over with The Phantom Menace, right? Obviously, the hardcore Star Wars fans that enjoy the politics of Star Wars, the prequels, are like, what does this mean? Yeah. And she was there, so that's really exciting that she's doing this show, which we think could be a political drama. It sounds really cool. I love that she's this invested with the weeds and questions of the Jedi and all that.
Yes. I think it's not a secret on the show that I'm like one of those very few, not maybe not one of the few, but one of the Star Wars fans that actually really enjoys the politics of it all. And Christian, I know you are one of these people too, but Phantom Menace, I think, is one of the best representations of that, like on film, like one of the best representations of the, weird political, like the weird political climate of the Star Wars universe is best represented in Phantom Menace, in my opinion. And these are the same types of questions that I started having, as I got older and started watching Phantom Menace. That's the type of these are the type of questions that we've talked about, during our reviews of the Phantom Menace, and really anything that has to do with the prequels. Like, how did the Jedi get to this point? One of the main themes of Star Wars in general is just like how hubris and power can basically like break you, and sort of make you vulnerable to things that you can't see. And so, really exploring that and exploring like how the Jedi fell into that trap is something that I've always been interested in. It's something that I thought Master and Apprentice, which is the book that Claudia Gray wrote about Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan, like a few years before the Phantom Menace, sort of dived into a little bit. And it's the sort of stuff that I think really brings a lot more depth and a lot more dynamism to like the Star Wars universe as a whole. Like when you start to understand like why the events of the prequels happened, like in universe and everything. And it's really welcoming to see Leslie Headland actually think about these questions, because it's the type of stuff that I've been thinking about for a long time, and the type of stuff that I think would make for a really compelling story if done right. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see like her interpretation of this, because the questions that she's asking, like why are the Jedi acting this way when they're in power? Like why are they reacting the way that they are to like Anakin potentially being the chosen one? And like why are they shunning Qui-Gon Jinn basically, and why is Qui-Gon Jinn shunning them? Like those are the types of things that I think can be, really explored in detail in the show, and I'm excited, and I hope that that's like I hope that's the direction that they're going. It seems like it.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I think Acolyte is quickly becoming maybe my most anticipated upcoming Star Wars project, because everything I hear about it, man, they're making some really interesting choices. And we talked last week about how she was very vocal about wanting someone in the writer's room who is not a fan of Star Wars. And I love that idea. I know some people freaked out about it. We talked through the potential downsides of that, right? But between that decision, which I think is truly, from a writing perspective, a very smart decision. Like, if a Marvel project was like, yeah, we brought somebody in who either hates Marvel or does not like Marvel or is not invested in Marvel, I think that would help whatever project they're working on. Because you really get perspectives that the people who are in the weeds can't think about and can't, like, fathom. So hearing that, which I think is just universally a good idea for any project, franchise specifically. Moving on to this, her previous comments about really loving the way George Lucas tackles politics, specifically his criticism of, you know, the United States in all the Star Wars movies he did. I really am interested in this show, dude. And I think, like, obviously I'm excited for Ahsoka. I'm excited for Rogue Squadron. That's going to be a kick-ass time. This, though, I truly think has potential to maybe approach the way I think and look at stuff like The Last Jedi. I know that scares people, but I mean, like, analytically, you know. So that makes me excited as a Star Wars fan.
Totally. I mean, I think you know, my most anticipated thing is still the Obi-Wan series, just by virtue of it being Obi-Wan. But like that aside, I think that's a given. But that aside, like, definitely the Acolyte is something that I'm interested in watching. I think you make a really good point, Christian. Like, this has the opportunity to sort of, you know, add a new lens on Star Wars and this entire Skywalker saga, for that matter, that we like never really seen before. Like, I just think that this could sort of broaden and like give depth to the events of the prequels, which would in turn like give more insight into like why things happened after the fact, and like, you know, why is Luke the way that he is in The Last Jedi, right? Like, because he talks about the hubris of the Jedi and all that kind of stuff. So it has an opportunity to really recontextualize the entire Skywalker saga, and I think that's like a really big thing to have on your shoulders as like a showrunner. I think it's like very daunting. It's a big challenge, but like I've said a million times on this podcast, like, Star Wars at its core is political. It's political commentary, and you know, I think Star Wars is best when it doesn't shy away from you know, really getting into the weeds and sort of like explaining, you know, just building the world into a way that is more dynamic and just, I don't know. It's just, I'm not finding the right words for it, but it's just really exciting, to be honest.
No, absolutely. I was just like smiling ear to ear hearing you talk about Luke in The Last Jedi, dude. Like, I really think like the events of the show, you're absolutely right, will probably tie into what he saw and what made him believe the way he believed, and whether that be Plagueis playing a role in this show, Sheev in his younger days, like the logo is clearly Sith based. I think we're gonna see the perspective of what it was like to try and observe the Jedi and play the Jedi, that led to the prequels happening and falling. Like, that's such an exciting idea. I have so much faith in her writing team, and just Lucasfilm with this project. And it is, Obi-Wan aside, because it's Obi-Wan, he's my favorite character, like you said, this is the most exciting project right now, I think, because it has so much potential.
Yeah, I think when you said play the Jedi, it's perfect. Like, we know that they lose, right? Basically, like, it's just like how, like just seeing how, like, we know how, but like seeing how in like a more detailed and visual way is going to be really exciting, I think.
Absolutely.
And like I said, I think it has the potential to recontextualize really everything. So it's definitely a daunting task, but really exciting, I think.
For sure. And final thing, this conversation has me excited, and I know people will hate this show. And
oh yeah,
like, I know people will hate this show, but it's because it's gonna be good. That's the thing. Like,
People, yeah, that's the thing about Star Wars. People always seem to hate the Star Wars that ends up being good.
Right.
So let's just put that there. Keep listening to Jedi Knights, and Christian and I will probably gush all over the show when it comes.
Absolutely. Well, another show that I'm sure we will have some stuff to gush over is Star Wars Visions. We got our first look, as we learned we would, at Anime Expo. It is releasing on Disney Plus this September. I don't know if it's dropping all at once, but I don't think there's been a Disney Plus show that's done that yet. But the initial release, we will have some of the show in September. There was a teaser trailer that showed a lot of concept art and previews for certain episodes, interviews with some of the creators. I have all the titles and studios listed. We can run through those real quick and talk about the one we're most excited for, and then general discussions on the teaser. I guess we can start with that. What do you think of the teaser?
I thought the teaser was really cool. I sort of liked the interviews that they did with some of the people who are working on these projects. It was filled with really interesting concept art. I was just smiling basically the entire time, like watching it, because it seems like these are people who love Star Wars and who are really interested in like creating something in their own art style that is like unique and that is true to Star Wars. And we've talked about this previously on the podcast. I think it's really interesting whenever any IP sort of like challenges its own artistic structure and sort of like has a different sort of a different medium come in and tell a story based in that universe. And I think Star Wars is obviously rich for that. And just based off of like what we're seeing in this trailer and everything, it looks beautiful. It looks like it's going to work really well. And I'm excited to just see like the small stories that these studios come up with that are taking place in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, and I didn't get a chance to read through all of the history of some of these studios, but I know one of them works on like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which is a very popular anime. Trigger is doing a couple of these. They did Kill la Kill. They're working on the cyberpunk anime. Little Witch Academia, I know, is a popular one. So like they're getting studios that have like some pretty large fan bases. So that's also going to be an interesting thing, right? Like Star Wars, I think, compared to Marvel, doesn't have as much of a global appeal. And that's why box office differentials between Star Wars and Marvel are the way they are. But I think being able to reach out to Japan and some of the audiences that really love these studios' work and seeing them tackle Star Wars could be a good gateway to the fandom, you know, and just work on expanding Star Wars to be more than just a Western-focused franchise, which it has been historically, you know.
Absolutely, that's a very good analysis of it for sure. I think I also think that just looking at the trailer, like this art style, like the anime art style in general, just I think works really well with Star Wars, because if you think about it, like I don't know, like a lot of anime has its roots in Japanese culture and all that kind of stuff, and George Lucas has like sort of talked about the Jedi being sort of akin to like the samurai of like their age, basically. So I think there are a lot of connections in just the the story itself, or just like the base material, and just the art style of anime in general. I think just goes really well with the fantastic sci-fi-ness of Star Wars, and it just looks really beautiful in a lot of these concept arts and stuff.
Exactly. Well, why don't we run through the studios and their respective episode titles? We don't have runtimes, short films have been thrown around a lot. Again, that could be a wide range of time, but these are all of the projects. Trigger is working on a short called The Elder. Kinema Citrus is doing The Village Bride, which I think they talked about like some of these having some drastically different tones, which is very interesting. Studio Colorido is doing Tatooine Rhapsody, which is an excellent title. Geno Studio is working on Lop and Ocho. Science Saru is doing TOB1. I'm assuming that is Toby, like the name for a droid. Production IG, The Ninth Jedi. Trigger is also working on The Twins, which got highlighted in the sizzle reel. Kamikaze Doga is working on The Duel, and Science Saru is working on another one called Akakiri. So some of these got more spotlight than others in the trailer. I imagine Toby T0B1 is the one that its creator was compared to Astro Boy, you know, the anime of the little robot kid.
Not familiar, unfortunately.
Okay,
but...
I feel like if you saw Astro Boy, you'd recognize him because it was like a popular 90s, 80s thing. But yeah, Astro Boy, there's a childlike looking droid in one of these shorts.
Oh. Yeah, I've seen Astro Boy before.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I not familiar with what you're talking about in terms of like its connection to Star Wars. But continue. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Sure. So The Village Bride, I think, is a story about romance. So we could get some shades of Anakin Padme, perhaps.
Maybe.
The Duel, I believe this is the correct one. It's a master and apprentice go somewhere, some planet, and they find some old unknown enemy that has like daggers, like double lightsaber daggers or something like that. It seems like a very interesting concept.
So that's actually The Elder, I think.
Thank you.
And that's
okay.
the one that I'm looking forward to the most.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it gives me like really hot like Master and Apprentice, like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon vibes. And the villain like does have like these really cool like lightsaber daggers.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very sick.
Trigger's The Twins was spotlighted, and the interviews says that there's these twins that are twins of the dark side. So I don't know how much that'll go off on, like if that's gonna lead to one becoming a Jedi, one becoming a Sith, which is always a great concept for twins in Star Wars. That'd be very cool. I don't know if they gave a pitch for this one, but I'm being honest, Mike, Tatooine Rhapsody might be the one I'm looking forward to the most because that's an excellent title, and they did in the scissor reel compare one of these things to a rock ballad or something like that, and I think that is probably the one.
It's gotta be. I
right?
mean, yeah, it's like a Bohemian Rhapsody, but like not.
Yeah, so that's a killer title. So all these sound very interesting. I'm excited to see all of them, but for you, do you think The Elder is the highlight?
At least from the trailer, which was like 3 minutes long, so it didn't really give us that big of a insight into like what each of these are going to be about. But the Elder did get sort of a spotlight, and the concept art for that looks really cool, and also just the villain, the way that they were talking about it seemed like they put a lot of work into it. So I mean, I'm excited for The Elder. In all seriousness, though, is there one that I'm like more looking forward to than the other? Probably not. Like, I'm just excited to see all of them, just take all of them at face value. Like this trailer, like I said, just kind of sold me on it. They all, I'm sure, will be very different from one another, and I think that's going to be a lot of the fun in watching it. Just seeing like different interpretations on the galaxy. My question is, do you think like you kind of talked about it previously, but do you think they're all going to be released at once, or do you think they're going to be released weekly?
I really don't know, man. Because there's a couple studios that are doing multiple. I don't know if they would like package those together, if they want to do like 3 a week, because streaming services have a weird variance in terms of how they release their shows. Like Netflix has messed with the all at once drop. I watched The Circle this year, and that was like 4 episodes a week for like a month. So I really don't know. Disney Plus, to my knowledge, has only done weekly, with the exception of a couple episodes for shows dropping 2 in a week. Like Bad Batch did that. I think Clone Wars did that. So yeah, I don't know. I think it would maybe make sense to drop them all at once, but I think there would be much more anticipation around like 1 a week, because you get a new take on Star Wars every week. That's really exciting, and I think you'd own conversation as long as they all hit, which I assume most will hit for a group of people, you know. But
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I really don't know what they're going to do. Part of me like hopes that they just release them all at once, just because I think that would just be cool to be able to pick and choose like which ones you want to watch at first, based
Sure.
off of just I don't know, just off of feel, and then watch the rest of them. But then again, like you said, I really like the weekly TV, like with Loki and The Mandalorian and The Bad Batch and WandaVision, what have you. I like the anticipation of that. So
Yeah.
I think I'd be fine with either, just based off of what Disney Plus has been doing for other TV shows. Seems like it will be like a weekly thing,
Mm-hmm.
but because it's a bit different, it might be all at once. I'd be happy with either, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
I think so far out of everything Disney Plus has done, both this and Marvel What If seem like the ones that would make sense to drop all at once, because I think the show is very comparable to Marvel What If, where it's like,
yeah,
Marvel What If is animated, it is maybe canon, maybe not, like multiverse is at play, so it could be the way that this is like, I think it's canon, like Lucasfilm signed off on all these, but
yeah, like these are probably canon, I would say.
yeah, so I think for the scope of this project, it reminds me of Marvel What If, where it's like each one is its own thing. It's a weird new take on Star Wars, or Marvel in that case. So maybe they do drop them all at once, but as far as I know, that show, Marvel What If, is weekly, so I could see this be weekly too. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I guess we're gonna have to wait. I'm excited either way, though. Speaking of which, Marvel What If looks pretty sick.
Oh,
So
hell yeah. That's
just
going
a
to be
little
super.
quick tangent.
Black Panther Star-Lord? Please. Hell yeah.
Yes. Was like Captain Britain or whatever her
Yeah,
name?
Peggy
I don't
Carter's
even know.
Captain Britain. That's so cool.
Yeah, so
Uh,
cool.
well, speaking of animation, why don't we get to Bad Batch episode 10? That is the most recent episode of the Bad Batch that has dropped this past week. I guess
Yes, sir.
general thoughts, spoiler free. I don't know how much there's to spoil this week, but what do you think of this episode, Mike?
I think we talked about it just a little bit before this we started recording this episode. I've started to really like these Bad Batch episodes. I think it had like a pretty rough start to begin with. People who watch this show, Christian, I wasn't really super hot on like episode 2 and episode 3. But after that, I think it started to ramp up, and this I thought was especially interesting as one who really likes the politics of Star Wars. It was very cool to see like the capital of the Confederacy of Independent Systems, sort of dealing with this like massive shakeup in government organization. If you think about it, just like probably a few weeks before, they were fighting the Republic, and now the Republic and them are underneath, the Empire. And so, sort of seeing how different planets across the galaxy are dealing with that is really interesting. And I thought it was a very cool set piece for the Bad Batch to do some cool Bad Batch stuff. So I for one really liked it. I don't know if you're as hyped about it as I am, Christian, but I was kind of at the edge of my seat. I'm really enjoying these, to be honest. It's fun to get like a quick hit of Star Wars every week.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? I think we talk about it every week, but expectations were a big thing going into the show off of season 7 of Clone Wars, and out the gate, I thought it opened really strong. I was okay with the lull because what you just said, like quick hit of Star Wars every week. I think we've been on an upswing since the mid-season point. And yeah, I did enjoy seeing the scenario, because I think this episode was much more about the nitty-gritty of what's going on in the galaxy right now, right? Because we do get insight into the Separatists, how that is all going down, and the transition of everything. And specifically, I thought it was interesting because Echo was the dissenter kind of this week, right? And he was the one who was struggling a bit more with the idea of the Seppies, because Echo's origins in this group is the most regular of all of them, right? Like, he didn't have a mutation. His whole deal is he was experimented on after the fact, but he does have his upbringing, his morals rooted in the standard clone order procedure, which I do think is interesting, and I'm glad that they're not like directly commenting on that, but that's a part of his character, and I'm glad that if he is the dissenter, in my mind, that is the reason why, because
Yeah.
the rest of the Bad Batch, like Hunter, made that call to let Kanan go. I don't know 100% if Echo would have made that call in Hunter's shoes, right? Like, if it was Echo and Crosshair, I don't know if Echo would have folded under Crosshair's persistence, you know? Like, so I think having him, after all this time, even post-inhibitor chip removal, like, still having some moral issues as himself is really interesting. So that was the highlight of the episode for me, and I did enjoy that a lot.
Absolutely, man. I think it's just like, I think the beginning of this season, I think the beginning of the Bad Batch did a really good job at sort of talking about like, oh, like now like there's an empire, like what the hell is going on? Like from the Bad Batch's perspective, now everybody's got a chain code, and like it seems like, there's some nefarious stuff going on. And it's just cool to have them sort of like re-go through that. Like they have to sort of like, they still have the reservations as like former Republic soldiers to, being against saving a separatist senator, and having them sort of like having to go over that and like overcome that feeling, I think was really cool. Just because earlier in the season they did focus a lot on that, but it seemed to sort of die down. But the fact that they're focusing on, the transition period right after Order 66, I think is, I don't know, I just really dig it. And getting into like the episode just a little bit, I just thought it was like a really cool, I don't know, like just action episode. I was at the edge of my seat the entire time. It's just cool to like be in this world and like feel like you're just completely sucked into it. And I don't know, I'm really digging it, to be honest. I don't really have much to say about this episode in particular, because it kind of just like all ends up the way that like you would expect it to.
Right.
But just the fact that they're really diving deeper into all these bigger questions, I think is just fun, honestly.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And I think that this show is filling that part of canon in a way that I don't think many people expected it to. Of like, I know you and I, when it was announced, were like, how do they react? Like, what happens with them in Order 66? We've never seen the immediate fallout explored before. And I think there was a world where this could very easily have been literally Mandalorian, of like week to week, it's that exact same thing. And we're getting to a point where we bring this child somewhere, which we could still be going there. But I think Bad Batch is doing a better job. That's maybe a more consistent job of fleshing out the state of the galaxy at the time period of this show than Mandalorian has so far with the New Republic, which we've gotten a couple episodes, right? Like the beginning of season 2, the Cobb Vanth stuff, seeing the news report of the Death Star blowing up. That was interesting. But
yeah,
I feel like aside from that, we haven't gotten much. Like, we do get the Rangers that are following Mando a bit, but like that compared to what we're learning here, and like the actual, like you said, perspective of the losers of the war is really interesting, because we're getting to see
totally
insight that we never really have had before. We've seen this era explored with Fallen Order and Solo and all that, but never from the perspective of people who literally had to like turn code because they were turned code on.
Yeah, it's just like a endless cycle of backstabbing and betrayal and all that kind of stuff. But like I said, it's like cool to have to, the beginning of the season sort of focused on that from the Bad Batch's perspective, and like the sort of questions and things that they had to go through as a squad, having previously worked, I don't know, exclusively for the Republic. That seemed to have gone away for a few episodes, but bringing that back to them and sort of having them have to deal with that new way, having to deal with like the question of, do we help our former enemy, who's now maybe our common friend, like who now maybe we share a common enemy with, is really interesting. And I don't know, just adds a little bit more to the time period, I think, which I'm all here for.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm hoping that this undercurrent, maybe not this season, but potentially future seasons, I do hope we get to explore that transition of the Separatists to the Rebellion, because there absolutely is some sort of crossover between the factions of the Separatists during the war against the Republic to those who fought in the rebellion. So I do think it'd be very interesting to explore. I hope we get there eventually. This episode had my mind sparking that way of like, ooh, are we gonna get something maybe sometime? But yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I mean the rebellion definitely. I'm sure that there are some major separatist figures who were part of that, and maybe what was his name? Avi Singh in this, like that senator from Raxus in this episode. Maybe he's like a leading member of the rebellion. We just are about to see the beginning of the story.
Yeah, that'd be very cool because we've seen the origins of the rebellion explored in The Force Unleashed. I think we got teases in like episode 2 of the Bad Batch, right? With Saw Gerrera. Maybe that was episode 1. I forget, but like, I feel like this show has the opportunity to set that up. And I think, if not season 1, eventually. And this episode, I think, was a nice little more seasoning on that tease that was the Saw Gerrera rebellion. So,
yeah, definitely. Well, I was a big fan of this episode, and I'm excited for the rest of the ones that are coming up. Hopefully, we can see more Crosshair, though. I'm gonna restart Crosshair Watch.
Yes. Warranted. We got 6 episodes left, so we'll have to keep an eye out. But until then, Mike, where can everybody find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Mike P. Connors.
Very nice. You can follow me on Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at Chun2D2, as well as here, youtube.com/joyclicks for the video version of Jedi Knights every Tuesday here on the channel, and its dedicated playlist alongside the playlists for Excelsior, our Marvel podcast, Gamescast, our video game show, and a host of others. If you want the audio version, though, you can check it out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, your service of choice. If you can rate or review on your platform, it would be appreciated because it does help us out. Quick second to tap 5 stars if you enjoy the show. And honestly, writing a review is very quick as well, so there you go. But Patreon.com/joyclicks is where you can go to support us further at the $1 and $5 tiers. $5 tier gives you producer credit on this show and every show we do, like Chris Sakis, Aaron Easton, and Charles Applin. So thank you very much. And that is gonna do it for Jedi Knights episode 88. I did see one last fun little quick hit breaking news from Walt Disney World.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Galaxy's Edge has new food items on that menu. So.
Oh my gosh. I think we're gonna have to look into it a little bit next episode, maybe.
Oh, absolutely. We will have some hot takes, some opinions on what I should order this fall.
Hot takes on hot food.
Oh hell yeah. But until then, we're fine, everything's fine. How are you?
May the Force be with you.
Oh, yes, you're right. Beep is up.